Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Speak Smart podcast. Today, we're diving into something that can be a little scary, even for native English speakers. Phone calls. You know that feeling, right? Heart starts pounding. Palms get sweaty.
It's funny how even in our digital age, with texting and video calls, that classic phone ring can still trigger anxiety.
Exactly. But here's the thing. We make phone calls all the time. For appointments, for work, to catch up with friends. So, instead of fearing them, let's master them. What do you say?
I'm all for turning phone calls from a dreaded chore into a chance to really shine, and you've shared some fascinating sources that'll help us do just that.
Okay, so you know how I always say, the deep dive is like having cheat codes for knowledge. Well, this episode is like unlocking the Speak Confidently on the Phone's cheat code. We've got articles on everything, from basic phone etiquette to handling those tricky customer service calls and even negotiating like a pro.
And what's fascinating about these sources is that they emphasize not just the what to say, but the why behind it. It's like understanding the psychology of a phone call, which can be incredibly empowering.
Right, because if you know why a certain phrase works, you can adapt it to tons of different situations.
Exactly. You're not just memorizing a script, you're building a communication toolkit.
Okay, so let's start with the very first hurdle, answering the phone. I'll admit, even I sometimes fumble this part. Like, is it hello? This is your name. Help me out here.
Well, the sources actually point out that a simple hello is almost always perfect. It's clear, concise, and universally understood. But if you're in a more formal setting, adding "this is your name" can add a touch of professionalism.
So it's like, hello is the default. And you level it up depending on who's calling.
Exactly. And here's where those psychological insights come in. One article mentioned that a friendly, upbeat tone of voice can make a huge difference in how the rest of the conversation unfolds. It's like setting the stage for a positive interaction.
Okay, so friendly, hello. Got it. But what about when you're not the one they're trying to reach? I always feel awkward transferring calls.
One tip that stood out to me is to acknowledge the caller's request immediately. So instead of just saying, hold on, try something like, just a moment, please, I'll connect you with the person's name.
Well, I like that. It's like you're taking charge of the situation and letting them know you're on it.
Precisely. And it just takes a couple of extra words to make the caller feel heard and valued.
You know, thinking about it, phone calls are kind of a dance, aren't they? There's this back and forth, this need to stay in sync, even though you can't see the other person.
That's a great analogy. And just like with dancing, sometimes you might miss a step or need a little clarification. The sources had some interesting advice for those moments too.
Like what? I'll admit, sometimes I just nod and pretend I understood when I really didn't catch something.
I think we've all been there. But these sources encourage us to embrace those moments of confusion. It's perfectly okay to ask for clarification. They suggest phrases like, could you repeat that, please? Or, I didn't quite catch that. Would you mind saying it again?
You know, it's funny, those phrases seem so basic. But I think we forget to use them because we feel embarrassed.
Absolutely. But the articles emphasized that most people are happy to repeat themselves. They'd rather make sure you understand than have a miscommunication later on.
So, we've covered answering the phone and handling those wait what moments. But what about those times when we need to make the call ourselves? Specifically, those calls where we have to schedule something, appointments, meetings, that kind of thing.
Well, the sources highlighted the importance of having a clear purpose. Before you even dial the number, what exactly do you need to accomplish on this call?
Right, because I know I've been guilty of calling.
Yeah.
And then being like, yeah. So,
It happens. But having a clear goal in mind can help you stay focused and articulate. One article suggested writing down a few key points you want to cover, especially if it's an important call.
that's a good tip.
Right.
So, clear purpose, check. Then what?
Then, when you're connected, start with a polite greeting and state your purpose
Okay.
clearly and concisely. For example, hello, this is your name. I'd like to schedule an appointment with Dr. Smith.
Straight to the point. No messing around.
Exactly. The sources emphasize that clarity is especially important on the phone because you don't have those visual cues to help convey your message.
So, no rambling on about the weather or how your day's going.
It's best to keep it focused, especially in a professional setting. Of course, if it's a friend or family member, a little small talk is perfectly natural.
Right. Gotta maintain those relationships.
Ugh.
Okay. So we've stated our purpose. Let's say it's scheduling that doctor's appointment. What happens next?
Well, the sources suggest being prepared to discuss potential dates and times. It's helpful to have a few options in mind.
Well, that's smart. So instead of saying, is Tuesday at 2 p.m. okay? I could say, would either Tuesday at 2 p.m. or Wednesday at 10 a.m. work for you?
Exactly. Giving multiple options shows that you're flexible and willing to work with their schedule.
But what if none of my proposed times work?
The articles address that too. They recommend staying positive and solution-oriented. You could say, okay, I understand. Would there be any availability earlier in the day on Wednesday or perhaps later in the week?
That is way better than my usual. Ugh. Okay, never mind that.
It makes a big difference. And remember, the person on the other end of the line is usually trying to help you.
So it's a collaboration, not a confrontation.
Exactly.
All right, we've booked that appointment. But life happens, and sometimes we need to reschedule or cancel. How do we navigate that gracefully?
The sources stress the importance of being polite and direct. If you need to cancel, you could say, I'm so sorry, but something came up and I need to cancel my appointment on date. Then, offer to reschedule if possible.
Okay, so no ghosting the doctor's office.
Definitely not, even if it feels a little awkward. It's important to communicate clearly and respectfully. And remember, the person on the other end of the line is just doing their job.
Right. They've probably heard it all before anyway.
Exactly.
So, we've covered answering the phone, asking for clarification, and scheduling appointments,
Yeah.
I'm already feeling more confident just talking about this.
That's great to hear. And we're just getting started. We still have to tackle those trickier calls, leaving messages, dealing with customer service.
Oh, yeah. Those can be stressful. But I have a feeling you've got some amazing tips from those sources to help us conquer those too.
Let's dive into those in the next part of our deep dive. All right, so we've mastered the basics. But let's face it, some phone calls are just tougher than others. Like, what about those times when you have to leave a message and you're suddenly hit with voicemail anxiety?
Oof, yes. That little beep can send me into a spiral. I overthink everything. Am I speaking clearly enough? Is this too long? You sure?
I think we can all relate to that feeling. But the good news is, the sources we have here offer some really helpful strategies for leaving effective voicemails.
Okay, lay them on me.
Well, one article emphasized the importance of starting with a clear and concise greeting. So instead of a rambling, hey, it's me again, try something like, hi, this is your name calling from company name, if applicable.
Okay, so establish who you are right away. No more mystery callers.
Exactly. And then get straight to the point. Briefly state the purpose of your call. You could say, I'm calling to follow up on our conversation about topic, or I'd like to schedule a meeting to discuss project.
And what about leaving your contact information? Sometimes I feel like I'm saying my number way too fast.
That's a common concern. One tip I found helpful was to enunciate your number slowly and clearly, and then repeat it. You could say, my number is your number. Again, that's your number.
Repetition is key. It's like that saying, tell them what you're going to tell them. Tell them, then tell them what you told them.
Exactly. It helps ensure that the listener catches that crucial information. And finally, end with a polite closing like, thank you for your time. I look forward to hearing from you soon.
Okay, so we've tackled voicemail anxiety. But there's another phone call beast I dread even more. Customer service calls.
Ah, yes. Those can be tricky. But remember what we said earlier about phone calls being like a dance? Well, customer service calls are like a dance with a few extra steps. And sometimes the music is a little off key.
That's a perfect way to put it. You're trying to stay in rhythm, but then you get put on hold, transferred to different departments.
Exactly. But the articles you shared actually highlight how understanding the psychology of customer service calls can help you stay calm and get the results you need.
Okay, so how do we hack the system, so to speak?
Well, one article emphasized the power of starting the call with a positive and polite demeanor. Even if you're feeling frustrated, resist the urge to vent your anger right away.
Because no one wants to help someone who's yelling at them.
Precisely. Instead, focus on clearly and calmly stating your issue. You could say something like, hello, my name is your name, and I'm calling about issue. I'm hoping you can help me with this.
So, kill them with kindness.
Exactly. And then be prepared to provide specific details about the problem. The more organized you are, the smoother the process will be.
So have that order number ready. Jot down the dates and times of any relevant interactions.
Exactly. The articles also suggested having a clear idea of what you want the outcome to be. Do you need a refund, an exchange, a repair? Knowing your desired resolution can help you stay focused during the conversation.
That makes sense. But what about when you get stuck in that dreaded customer service loop? transferred from one department to another, put on hold for what feels like an eternity.
The articles acknowledge that those situations can be incredibly frustrating. One tip I found helpful was to politely, but firmly, reiterate your issue each time you speak to a new representative.
So it's like, hi, your name, and I'm calling about issue. I was previously speaking with previous representative's name. Who transferred me to you?
Exactly, that way. You're not starting from scratch each time. And you're ensuring that your issue stays at the forefront of the conversation.
And hopefully, you'll eventually reach someone who can actually help.
Exactly. Another important point the article's highlighted is the importance of documenting everything. Keep track of who you spoke to, the date and time of each call, and any reference numbers you're given. This can be incredibly helpful if you need to escalate the issue further.
Okay, so customer service calls. Definitely a dance that requires some extra finesse. But there's one more type of phone call I think we need to address. Those calls that involve negotiation.
Ah, yes, negotiation. This is where the psychology of persuasion really comes into play. And the sources you provided had some fascinating insights on how to approach these conversations effectively.
Okay, I'm ready to learn how to negotiate like a pro.
Well, one key takeaway was the importance of preparation. Before you even make the call, research comparable products or services, understand your own needs and priorities, and set realistic expectations.
Know your worth and what you're willing to compromise on.
Exactly. And when you're on the call, maintain a confident and respectful tone. Clearly state your objective and be willing to listen to the other party's perspective.
So it's not about being aggressive or demanding. It's about finding a mutually beneficial solution.
Precisely. And the article suggested using phrases that express collaboration, like, I'm looking for a solution that works for both of us, or how can we make this work?
That makes sense. It sets a cooperative tone.
Yeah.
Rather than an adversarial one.
Exactly. And when it comes to discussing specific terms, be clear and concise. Don't be afraid to ask for what you want, but also be prepared to offer alternatives or compromises.
So it's like a dance of give and take.
Exactly. And remember, even if you don't get everything you want, a successful negotiation often involves finding a middle ground that both parties can agree on.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Leaving messages, conquering customer service calls, and even learning how to negotiate effectively. But there's one more type of phone call. That, while we hope we never have to make, is important to be prepared for. Emergency calls.
You're absolutely right. In those high-pressure situations, clear communication can be life-saving.
So let's talk about how to handle those calls effectively.
Let's do that in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of phone call territory, but now we're entering the break glass in case of emergency zone. These are the calls we never want to make, but we need to know how to handle them if the situation arises.
You're absolutely right. And in these moments, every second counts. So clarity and composure are key. The sources you shared really emphasize the importance of staying calm and providing the essential information quickly and accurately.
I can only imagine how hard that must be when you're in a panicked state. Do the sources offer any advice on how to manage that adrenaline rush?
One article suggested taking a deep breath and focusing on your voice. Speaking slowly and clearly can help you stay in control and ensure that the operator understands your situation.
Okay, deep breaths. Slow and clear. Got it. What else should we keep in mind?
Well, the sources stress the importance of knowing what information the operator will need. They'll likely ask for your location, the nature of the emergency, and any injuries or potential hazards.
Right, because those details will help them dispatch the appropriate help quickly.
Exactly. And one tip I found helpful was to have a pen and paper nearby in case you need to jot down any instructions or reference numbers.
That's smart. In those high-pressure situations, it's easy to forget even the simplest things.
Absolutely. And remember, even if you're feeling overwhelmed, try to stay on the line and follow the operator's instructions. They're trained to guide you through the situation and provide the necessary support.
It's reassuring to know that there's someone on the other end of the line who's ready to help, even in the most challenging circumstances.
Absolutely. And knowing that you have the communication skills to handle these calls effectively can give you a sense of confidence and empowerment, even in those difficult moments.
You know, it's amazing how much we've learned about the art of phone communication. In this deep dive, we've gone from feeling apprehensive about those ringing phones to having a whole toolkit of strategies to navigate different scenarios.
It's a testament to the power of understanding, not just what to say, but why we say it. And I think the key takeaway here is that effective phone communication is a skill that anyone can learn and improve upon.
Exactly. It's like we've unlocked a secret level of communication. We've learned how to answer the phone with confidence, schedule appointments like pros, handle those tricky customer service calls, negotiate effectively, and even stay calm during emergencies.
And remember, even if you make a mistake or stumble over your words, it's okay. Just take a breath, ask for clarification, and keep going. Every phone call is a chance to practice and refine your skills.
That's such a great reminder. It's not about perfection, it's about progress. And knowing that we have these tools and strategies at our disposal can make those phone calls a lot less daunting.
Absolutely. So the next time your phone rings, take a deep breath, remember what we've learned, and go for it. You've got this.
Thanks for listening to the Speak Smart podcast. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like this episode.